Chapter 1. It's not show friends, it's show business. It should have been one of the biggest nights of my life. Another sellout performance of singing I'm No a Billy, He's a Tim. And for the first time, all my family were supposed to be there, including my dad, who I hadn't seen for over 30 years. I'd just come off stage from playing to a packed house of more than 3,000 people at the Scottish Exhibition and Conference Centre in Glasgow. The SECC is one of the top venues in the country, played by everyone including UB40, Simply Red, the Rolling Stones, Tina Turner, David Bowie and Rod Stewart. The adrenaline was still coursing through my veins. The laughter and applause were echoing in my ears. I'd just taken 3 curtain calls with a standing ovation and cheers of more, and encore. I was on one of the biggest highs of my life. Upstairs, in a private room, my long-term girlfriend and future wife Karen and her parents were waiting with my mother, brother and my father's new family, including 3 sisters and a younger brother I'd never met. They'd all been invited by me to watch the show. It was the family reunion I'd been praying for since I was a kid, and they were all there to celebrate with me. I knew it was going to be a night to remember, and I was right. Just before heading to the party, I took time to have a chat with Des Dillon, the author of the play I'd just performed, and a man I looked up to as a friend, mentor and almost surrogate father figure. I often used to call Des at the end of a performance to tell him how well the show had gone, but this night was different. It was one of the biggest audiences we'd ever played, and Des had been in the audience, which made it even more special. As we were packing up the set and loading into the van, Des came up on the stage and he said he had something to tell me. The adrenaline was still pumping through my veins, and I was eager to get his reaction to the performance, which had gone exceptionally well. I thought Des would be pleased, and I was right. In fact, he was so pleased, he told me he was pulling the plug and taking the show away from me. Suddenly, instead of being upstairs with my family and celebrating the pinnacle of my success, I was alone in the lobby of the theatre, trying to get my head around the realisation that my world had just collapsed. Everything I had worked for over the previous 5 years, along with all my dreams and ambitions for the show, were vanishing in the blink of an eye. After 5 years, Des was exercising his right to take back his play. He was perfectly entitled to do this. After all, we didn't have a long-term written contract. I could hear Des talking, but the words weren't making much sense. He was calmly explaining why he wanted to take back control of the show, but my thoughts and my heart were racing. Flashes of memories assailed my brain. I remembered the day I discovered the play during a visit to the library, and my excitement of realising it was something I could relate to, and of rushing home to rehearse it with friends in my 10-foot by 9-foot bedroom. I thought of the nights I'd spent stacking shelves in a supermarket to raise money for market materials, of trudging round pubs, begging them to let me put on shows and run down back rooms to a handful of people. The hours I spent building up interest with major theatres, of walking mile after mile to push flyers through letterboxes in towns all over Scotland to get ordinary folk to come and see the show. It was more than a play to me. It was what made me get up in the morning. It helped me win the stage best actor for my performance at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. I hadn't just put time, money, blood, sweat and tears into producing it. I had invested my soul. I had taken that play from nothing to playing in front of 3,000 people and grossing £50,000 a night. It had earned over £1 million at the box office to become one of Scottish theatre's greatest success stories of recent times. And it had all been done without any funding or outside financial support. Now, in a conversation lasting less than a few minutes, everything I had worked for over the past 5 years was finished. What was I going to tell Karen? What was I going to tell the rest of my family? They were all waiting upstairs in a private bar, celebrating a success which, at this precise instant, now felt more like a failure. I'm not sure I've ever felt as rejected and devastated as I did at that moment. Now I understood completely the saying, it's not show friends, it's show business. The walk from the stage, out along the concourse of the SECC, to where my family and friends were waiting was only a couple of 100 yards, but it was one of the longest and loneliest I've ever made. Climbing the stairs to the first floor, I felt like a condemned man mounting the scaffold. Wasn't it just myself I felt sorry for? I knew my family and friends who had helped me get this far would also be devastated. People like me weren't supposed to be successful. I was an ordinary guy from a broken home in a working class area of Glasgow. It was alright to have dreams and ambitions, like millions of other people, but nobody really expected them to come true. In achieving what I had, however minor that was, I'd broken a mould and became an exception to the rule. I knew I'd been lucky, and that whatever success I'd enjoyed was shared by my family and friends. I'd gone from working in a shop on minimum wage to earning enough money to be able to pay off my mum's mortgage, settle all her debts, and the plan was to set up home with Karen. My dad used to play in bands with dreams of making it big that were never realised. My mum wrote poetry but was too shy to share it or get it published. Here I was, standing on a stage getting applause from thousands of people, and I knew they were proud of me. In a small way, I hoped they could experience a little of their own dreams through me. How was I going to tell them it was over? As I approached the door to the room, I could hear the sound of chatter and laughter, but my heart was heavy. I couldn't say anything now. I had to keep the news to myself for a little longer and not spoil the party. As my hand reached the door handle, I took a deep breath and said to myself, "It's showtime." And I walked into the room with the biggest smile possible, with my arms wide like I was making a grand stage entrance. For the rest of the evening, I laughed and joked with everyone as if nothing was wrong. All the time there was a sickening feeling in the pit of my stomach and a lump in my throat. I may have been surrounded by people, but I felt very much alone. Now I realise it was probably the best performance I've ever given, and one that changed my life. Somewhere, from deep within my subconscious, the lyrics of a song of the old Broadway musical Seesaw kept getting louder and louder in my head. It's not where you start, it's where you finish. It's not how you go, it's how you land. 100 to 1 shot, they call him a klutz. Can't outrun the favourite, all he needs is the guts. Your final return will not diminish, and you can be the cream of the crop. It's not where you start, it's where you finish, and you're gonna finish on top. That's when I knew I wasn't finished yet.